Sophie Cunningham steps up, grabs her, knocks her down, gets a flagrant 2 for this, they end up calling.
I'm clapping Sophie Cunningham off the floor. We're clapping Sophie Cunningham off the floor right now. We're clapping her off the floor. She's getting high-fived off the floor right now.
Yeah, slam her to the floor. Slam her through the floor. Y'all want to play dirty? Sophie gonna hold it down.
What just went down between the Indiana Fever and Connecticut Sun was anything but ordinary.
Sophie Cunningham. At the end of the game, JC Sheldon is going for a fast break layup and Sophie Cunningham is running with her. And I remember in my head, like it happened in a split second and I said, oh.
The game started slow, but it turned into an all-out battle. And at the center of it was Sophie Cunningham, sending a fierce message loud and clear.
Look at Sophie. She's waiting for it. She's waiting for it, fam. And then I see why Allen got kicked out. Allen went for the throat. Allen went for Sophie's throat. Literally have her hand on her neck right there. Oh my goodness. But she's focused on Sheldon. So she reaches for Sheldon, grabs the back of her head. Is Sophie handling both of them? Oh my goodness. It looked like Sophie might have one hand on Allen, the other hand holding on to Sheldon's hair or the back of her head. Oh my goodness.
In one explosive moment, Sophie threw a hit that many saw as payback for how Caitlin Clark's been treated. It wasn't just a foul, it was a statement. The crowd erupted, chaos broke out, and suddenly the game shifted.
And eventually, Sophie Cunningham had enough. Oh yeah, Sophie Cunningham had enough. Folks, shout out to Sophie Cunningham. We wanted somebody like this that said, I'm tired of this. I'm trying to step up. It's time to step up. We're not going to get punked anymore. We're not going to get pushed around anymore. We're not going to get treated like a little sister anymore, like a little brother anymore. We are going to start being the ones that say, you know what? We're not going to start the fight.
Cunningham had enough. After watching Clark take hit after hit, she stepped in and unleashed the kind of retaliation you don't forget. Emotions boiled over, fists flew, and what Sophie did? That moment just changed everything.
Sophie Cunningham gives a take foul, a very hard one. She straight up tackled JC Sheldon. Don't get it twisted. That was not a hard foul. She tackled her. That was a dirty play, in my opinion. She did exactly what she wanted to do. Now, even though JC Sheldon, she leaned forward and she really got into Sophie's chest. And Sophie put her arms around her and drug her to the ground because Sophie didn't fall down. She threw JC Sheldon down.
The first half was a snooze. Slow pace, missed shots, nothing special. But then things exploded. It started with JC Sheldon guarding Caitlin Clark and catching her right in the eye.
Came out and thought it was all good, but who was waiting for her? Sophie Cunningham. Sophie Cunningham steps up, grabs her, knocks her down, gets a flagrant 2 for this, they end up calling.
From the start, the game felt heated. Coach Stephanie White even said they expected it. Cheap shots, hard fouls, and the refs. They completely lost control. No consistency, no protection. Caitlin hit the floor over and over, and nothing. No whistles, no warnings.
I've never seen this. The commentators are literally saying the refereeing is bad for basketball. I've never heard anything like this before. I've never seen anything like this before.
Marina Mabrey stayed in after throwing hands. JC Sheldon kept hacking. It was open season on Clark, and nobody stepped in until Sophie Cunningham did. Right after Caitlin's clash with JC, you could feel it. Sophie had her locked in. Then came the fast break.
This is, of course, Sophie and Sheldon going down the floor. Sophie tries to wrap her up, and Sheldon gets to the floor, and all hell breaks loose. And Sophie said, I'm not having it. I'm not having it. We'll go. We'll go. So there's that.
JC was sprinting toward the basket when Sophie cut her off with a hard stop. Midway through the third, things got even uglier. Mabry slammed into Caitlin like a linebacker. Full contact, no acting, and still no ejection. It was getting out of hand. Sheldon's defense turned into cheap shots. The eye poke looked all too familiar. Then Mabry's shove sent Caitlin crashing again. A tech was called, but it wasn't enough. And through it all, Caitlin kept her cool. But you could see it. Something was about to snap, and then it did.
JC Sheldon is guarding Caitlin Clark. She swipes her in the eyeball. Caitlin Clark nudges her off because JC stays in her face. And then Tina Charles runs over and is kind of wagging her finger in Caitlin Clark's face. And then Marina Mabrey comes out of nowhere.
JC stood up, and Sophie struck. She wrapped her up at the neck, no hesitation, making a statement loud and clear. Fans went wild. Commentators were stunned. This was the breaking point. The refs let it spiral.
But the only thing everybody want to talk about is the fight, right? Now, this wasn't just the pushing and shoving thing. In my opinion, this was as close as you can get to a fight without somebody throwing some blows. Now, first, before we get into some of the video footage, let's hear Stephanie White and her thoughts on what happened.
JC Sheldon's eye jab looked like deja vu, and Mabrey's cheap hit felt like history repeating itself. Sophie saw it all and made sure it didn't go unanswered.
JC Sheldon, you out there doing all that hacking, up 1 for 4, 0 for 3. You was minus 22, 2 points. Like, stop it. Stop it. Y'all stink. And you guys are hating on Caitlin Clark. Y'all looking for attention in all the wrong places, man. Let your skills and your game do. See, that's the problem. Y'all not good enough.
Tensions weren't just rising, they were boiling over. This clash wasn't some random outburst. It came loaded with history. Caitlin Clark and JC Sheldon go way back to their college battles, where Caitlin dominated with a spotless 12-0 record against her.
Sophie Cunningham. JC Sheldon going up for a layup, puts her head down like a running back, exploding through the hole. Sophie Cunningham wraps her up, tosses her little ass to the ground, says, "What's good?" And then Lindsay Allen goes after her along with JC Sheldon and Sophie Cunningham. Look at Sophie Cunningham, taking it 2-on-1. Sophie Cunningham going 2-on-1 underneath the basket. Sophie Cunningham, salute.
JC Sheldon, my goodness, dog. My goodness. Now, honestly, I felt like Sophie might have wanted a piece of JC after the Caitlin Clark and JC kind of scuffle going on, right? Then this happened, okay? The fast break, you see Sheldon taking it after getting a steal. Sophie wraps her arms around her. Now, this is normal, okay?
That rivalry, it was personal. And in this game, JC made sure Caitlin felt it, hounding her the full length of the court, face guarding, bulldozing through screens, grabbing her arms like it was personal war.
This is a matchup, if you guys aren't familiar. Caitlin Clark and JC Sheldon, of all people, I feel like this is the rivalry. These are two players who do not seem to like one another at all. And this goes all the way back to college. And when Iowa was going up against Ohio State, Caitlin Clark is 12-0 against JC Sheldon. And what we saw in this Connecticut Sun game was JC Sheldon picking Caitlin Clark up full court. It was back to rookie year defensive strategies against Caitlin Clark, guarding her full court, face guarding her, blitzing her on every single screen, double teaming her. Like, that was the Connecticut Sun defensive strategy for Caitlin Clark, and JC Sheldon was in her face the entire time.
Clark, known for her deep range and icy confidence, wasn't getting the calls she normally draws. The frustration started seeping through. You could see it in her slumped shoulders, the side eyes at the refs, and the increasing complaints. Then it snapped.
Sophie Cunningham. JC Sheldon going up for a layup, puts her head down like a running back, exploding through the hole. Sophie Cunningham wraps her up, tosses her little ass to the ground, says, "What's good?" And then Lindsay Allen goes after her along with JC Sheldon and Sophie Cunningham. Look at Sophie Cunningham, taking it 2-on-1. Sophie Cunningham going 2-on-1 underneath the basket. Sophie Cunningham, salute.
JC's hand flew up and grazed Caitlin across the face. Maybe it wasn't on purpose, but it struck a nerve. Caitlin answered with a stiff arm. Sheldon didn't back off, and neither did Sophie Cunningham. She saw it unfold and made her move. When Allen and Sheldon tried to pull a slick double team, Sophie read it like a book, snatched the ball, turned, and slammed JC Sheldon straight to the hardwood. No pause, no second thoughts, just a brutal takedown.
Sophie Cunningham steps up, grabs her, knocks her down, gets a flagrant 2 for this. They end up calling. Sophie takes a step back, gathers herself. JC Sheldon kind of gets up, and another teammate, I don't recall the young lady's name, tried to get in Sophie's face. Sophie fights him back. They're running each other, and they start choking each other. And, you know, Cunningham's kind of in control, it seemingly, because Sheldon's head is getting, like, pushed down.
I feel like Sophie Cunningham was the only one who would have done something back if she was on the floor. Sophie Cunningham got her. Sophie Cunningham got her. And I mean this when I say this. This would have been a flagrant 2, except for the fact that they allowed Marina Mabrey did what she did. This possibly should be a flagrant 2. She got her around the neck. And then JC Sheldon gets up. And then Sophie immediately goes at JC Sheldon, grabs her.
The message was loud. Lay a hand on Caitlin and you answer to Sophie. The fans jumped out of their seats. They knew this wasn't just defense. This was personal. Sophie wasn't here to play nice. She was ready to go to war. And you could see it in her eyes. Sophie had been waiting for this moment. JC got up and tried to retaliate, but Lindsay Allen came flying in, hands up, and straight for Sophie's throat.
We got JC Sheldon right here. She's going to give Caitlin Clark the Dejanay Carrington eye gouge. And then Marina Mabrey's going to come in like some thug off the street and pull a Kennedy Carter on Caitlin Clark. Let's watch
Caitlin
this.
Clark is trying to create some.
I'm going to turn this down. There's the eye gouge, okay? And there's Mabrey right there with the hip check, the shove. That's the eye gouge. And then right there. Good God Almighty.
That's not a metaphor. She literally grabbed at her neck. Sophie, unbothered. She held off Allen with one hand and had her other hand on JC's head like she was fending off a double attack. It looked like a wrestling match. But Sophie stood her ground like a bouncer at the gates of war.
Sophie.
By Allen, and Sheldon comes up with the steal.
Yeah. Slam her to the floor. Slam her through the floor. Y'all want to play dirty? Sophie gonna hold it down. Sophie is going to hold it down. Stephanie White, you make sure Sophie's in the game every time Caitlin's in now. Just in case anything pop off, she there ready to go.
With less than a minute on the clock, the boiling point finally spilled over. Caitlin had taken hits all game without a single ounce of justice. But Sophie wasn't letting that slide. When JC Sheldon went charging toward the basket like a running back breaking through a hole, Sophie stepped into her path and shut it down. She grabbed her, flung her to the floor, and stared her down like a gladiator. Then came Lindsay Allen again. Full speed, and Sophie met her too. 2-on-1, Sophie didn't blink.
Yo, then Sophie just holding her like, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? Oh my goodness, fam. I mean, literally. Just holding her and talking to her. Just giving her a good talking. Just giving her a good talking, man. Oh my goodness. Now, honestly, I think this is a rivalry, man. This is a rivalry right here.
Then came the wildest moment. JC Sheldon thought she had a breakaway layup. Wrong. Sophie stepped in, leveled her with a massive hit, and sent her crashing down. The arena erupted in disbelief. Officials immediately hit Sophie with a flagrant 2. Chaos followed. Teammates jumped in, players grabbed each other, and just like that, it stopped being basketball. It turned into a war zone. Hands flew, arms locked around necks. And through it all, one thing became crystal clear.
It's Sophie Cunningham. Salute. 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 Sophie Cunningham did her jail son. I can't let you get close, Vanderlei. I can't let you get close. Oh, I love to see it. I love to see it. Again, folks, there comes a time where you got to stand up for yourself. There comes a time when you get bullied and you get bullied and you get bullied and your mom's like, no, just walk away. Just leave it alone. Ignore it. They'll eventually let you. But the bullies don't let you go. The bullies don't leave you alone. The bullies just see that as more weakness, so they continue to bully. They continue to bully. They continue to bully. And then eventually, you need somebody or you need a moment where you're willing to step up and say, bump all this.
Sophie wasn't just making a play. She was defending her teammate with everything she had. Sophie didn't have to be the enforcer. No one told her to do it, but she stepped up because the league, the refs, everyone else, they failed Caitlin.
This was a way, in Sophie Cunningham's case, someone stepping up for Caitlin Clark almost like never before, immediately targeting the person that was targeting them. And I feel like JC Sheldon was clearly targeting Caitlin Clark most of this game.
JC Sheldon should have been tossed for that eye shot. Marina Mabrey, she snuck in a cheap shot from behind while Caitlin wasn't even facing her, and all she got was a technical. No flagrant, no ejection, just a slap on the wrist. This wasn't a fight. It was a reckoning. It was the Indiana Fever saying no more, and Sophie led the charge. But as the dust started to settle, one question echoed across the arena. Did Sophie really get ejected for defending her teammate while the ones who started it all, Sheldon and Mabrey, skated free?
Sophie Cunningham doesn't have to try take one for the team. Sophie doesn't have to take one for the team. Sophie doesn't have to feel like she needs to get revenge on JC Sheldon. Sophie doesn't have to be an enforcer if the referees just ejected JC Sheldon when they should have ejected her. It is not the standard that was set. And by the way, if the Marina Mabrey one was an ejection, that's an ejection. That's ejection. I actually don't even mind. But the referees can't now say that's an ejection when that is less than the Marina Mabrey one.
Sophie Cunningham is going back to the locker room, and I'm wondering, I don't know if she just got kicked out, but if they kicked her out and they did not kick Marina Mabrey out, then holy shit, because that's the next thing we got to get to. Mabrey, for that incident, that Kennedy Carter vicious slam to the ground she just had on Caitlin Clark, they did not throw her out of this game.
Sophie Cunningham didn't just commit a foul. She delivered a message. If the officials won't step up for Caitlin Clark, her teammates are ready to do it themselves. Targeting Caitlin has consequences now. This wasn't just a heated moment. It was a shift in tone. And believe this, the Connecticut Sun won't forget it anytime soon. Shout out to Sophie Cunningham. When the game turned nasty and no one else responded, she stood tall. She backed up her teammate, made herself heard, and made it clear.
Payback for what was happening the entire game. But she did it in a way that she wasn't going to injure JC. She was just making it known, like, if the refs aren't going to handle it, I will handle it.
So if not for nothing, she ended up with 20 points. She had a really good game. But you know what? I credit JC Sheldon for showing how to guard her.
Sophie Cunningham, shout out to you for holding it down. Shout out to Sophie Cunningham. We need to be showering her with praise. Hit her on all her social medias. Tell her how much we love her.
Sophie, I think she was waiting on her, man. I think she wanted a piece of her so she can calm her down, man. And honestly, holding her there, just, hey, what you gonna do, man?
This Fever team isn't here to get pushed around. That's the kind of player every team wants in their corner. That was more than just a basketball game. It was a message sent with force. Sophie locked up JC Sheldon like she was saying, try me. That's enforcer energy in full effect. No dirty hits, just strength, presence, and loyalty. She let the whole arena know she's got Caitlin's back. This wasn't about one hard foul. It was a wake-up call.
Finally, we have somebody. There is some type of proof with this team that says, all right.
Because they're going to have to deal out, fines. There may be suspensions that come from this game, which kind of sucks if Sophie ends up suspended because they need her right now.
I'm clapping Sophie Cunningham off the floor. We're clapping Sophie Cunningham off the floor right now. We're clapping her off the floor. She's getting high-fived off the floor right now.
That moment sparked a fire, not just in Sophie, but in the entire Fever squad. It told the league, Caitlin Clark's not alone anymore. You take a cheap shot, you'll get checked. What happened tonight wasn't just drama. It was a warning shot across the WNBA. Sophie stood her ground. Caitlin stayed composed. And now the rest of the league has to decide how they'll respond. Will there be repercussions, suspensions, or maybe, just maybe, a new standard for protecting the game's biggest names? And as Sophie left the court, tossed from the game but not defeated, her teammates greeted her like a hero. That exit, It'll be remembered long after the final whistle. Caitlin Clark put up 20 points, Sophie battled in the paint, and the Indiana Fever walked away not just with a win, but with respect. Drop your thoughts down in the comments. That was one for the books. Smash that like button, subscribe for more, and keep it locked right here